When I was at school, sex education went like this. We were in junior 4, which is now year 6. A woman walked in, she got a plate, filled it with water, put a Tampax in it, watched it expand and went, there you go. That was pretty much it. Let me tell you, didn't actually work effectively when you had your period either, but also was not at all informative. We've moved on a great deal, but still I read on a regular basis reports indicating that parents wish to prevent their children being educated on sex and relationships. They feel that by going into classes and talking to children as young as 4 and 5, that somehow we will be stealing childhood, or even worse, we will be enforcing strange belief systems about acceptable ways of being in life into their minds. And let's make that clear, what people are primarily upset about is the idea that we would be teaching children as young as 4 and 5 about LGBTQIA issues. So what we're saying there is that some people in our communities do not feel comfortable with the idea that the life of an individual being explored who does not fit the heterosexual doctrine could somehow distort the worldview of their child, and to some degree maybe even promote in that child choices that as parents they don't want their children making. If we accept that that kind of intolerance is allowed in our schools, then we are including the rhetoric of oppression in the education of our children. We are promoting the idea that if you do not fit the stereotypical heterosexual dynamic, then those kind of things should be excluded from education because you don't fit the paradigm that society has decided in some areas you should fit. Why should children learn about sex and relationships from a very early age? And more importantly, why should they learn about the amazing and colourful rainbow of humanity? Firstly, because the earlier that we allow children to see that firstly their bodies are their own and nobody has a right to connect with them in any other way than they feel comfortable with, we help them to understand a sense of self and also a boundary, which means that should anybody touch them inappropriately, they understand what sexual organs are, they understand what's appropriate and inappropriate, and they, even as a young child, can elect to stop that behaviour by telling a teacher that it's happening to them at home or telling a parent that it's happening to them at their local activity club. So number one, if we get in there very, very young, we are protecting children. Remember, 1 in 6 children are sexually abused by somebody in their world, which means that we're protecting 1 in 6 children. Number 2, if we teach very young children about the fact that homosexual, lesbian, pan, non-binary relationships exist, that individuals identify as different types of human beings to what we might have identified as 30 years ago, because we've recognised in society that time has moved on and people are more able to express themselves with freedom, then we do 2 things. Firstly, children accept what they are taught. If they are being taught that it is entirely normal to fall in love as a boy with another boy, or to even have asexuality issues where you don't really feel the need to be in a relationship sexually, we tell that child, if that is who they are, you are normal. You are absolutely normal. You are good enough. And you don't need to worry about the opinions that are outside of this environment, because you can see that everybody in this room, all your class friends, all your peers, they get it because they've been educated on it. So aside from teaching those around you tolerance, you're also increasing the self-esteem and worth of the child who realises, hey, it's completely normal to feel this way. I am completely normal. If you're a child who is dealing with gender dysphoria and recognising that, you know, I don't really feel like a boy, I feel like a girl, and suddenly somebody from 4 and 5 years of age is saying to you, you know what, you are absolutely okay. There is nothing wrong with you. Lots of other people feel this way. This is what our solutions and strategies might be. Then suddenly I'm not feeling alone and I don't feel afraid. If You're encouraging children from a really young age to explore sex and relationships in the context of what a loving, engaging, respectful, communicative relationship is about. Then you're teaching them firstly to not be afraid of connection as they grow older, because they understand the tools and strategies required so that they can engage in those relationships positively and constructively and lovingly. You're teaching them not to be ashamed of who they are and what they are and how they are and what they wish to have within the relationships that they elect to be in. You're showing the future generation that the landscape of sexuality and gender that we know has changed in a way where acceptance and compassion and kindness and normality become second nature to them. Children are not born with prejudice, we know that. Children are born and then they are taught what they become. If you as a parent are telling me that because of your religious doctrine, your Catholicism, your Christianity, your Muslim beliefs, if you are telling me that you do not accept that people who choose to live the lifestyles that they were born to live should be people that we introduce into education, then you are teaching oppression and prejudice. And there is an irony in that, because I hear so much in the press about a need to respect religion, a need to respect another's beliefs. But actually, you cannot give me even a tiny shred of evidence that proves what you believe I should respect. But I can give you evidence of a transgender girl. And I can give you evidence of my uncle who's homosexual. I can evidence my own sexuality. So I can evidence, because this is factual. So before you ask me to respect your minority beliefs, you fundamentally therefore need to also accept the tolerance and understanding of the factual ones that I can present right now. And that is that children are going to be gay, they are going to be trans, they're going to be asexual, they're going to be queer, they're going to be all this wonderful landscape of possibility. And that is factual. So what do? We operate from a position where we can inspire them to be happy, healthy, self-accepting, self-loving, tolerant, compassionate, kind, and most of all, free. Because that is what liberating people's perspectives is all about. It's about teaching them freedom. And for that little 4 or 5-year-old sat in that classroom, recognising that it's okay to be completely unique, whoever they are, their life and meaning is inspired further when we educate them that they are completely acceptable as the person that they are. And it begins as young as 4 and 5, forming the identity with self. So if there is one thing that we can do within our communities, it's inspire children to recognise as early as possible that sex and relationships is not something to be ashamed of, that gender and sexuality is not something to be afraid of, and that most of all, that tolerance, love and compassion, those are what foster a beautiful future for this country and for our children within it. It's our job to enforce sexual relationships education, because by doing that, we enforce compassion.